Hey folks, welcome to the Impact Perpetual Learning Series. I'm best-selling author of Impact, How to Get Noticed, Motivate Millions, and Make a Difference in a Noisy World, Ken McArthur. And if you don't know anything about me, you can always find out information about me on the web just by doing a simple search for Ken McArthur, or you can go to kenmacarthur.com. I've had a long background since the dark ages of the internet and started early with internet marketing and helping people get their ideas, products, and services out to millions of people. And I've been really privileged to have an amazing group of people we call the JV Alert Live family to help me through that process, to teach me and to show me all of the different things that we can do to increase our impact and really make a difference in the noisy world that we live in, and it is a noisy world. One of the people that can really cut through the noise is somebody that has been amazing me for a long-time friend. What if you could chat with Tony Robbins, Copywriter? What if he's also written for Mark Victor Hansen or Frank Kern, Alex Mandossian, Joel Combs, Stu McLaren, Jeff Walker, Brad Callen, Kurt Christensen, and Jack Camfield? Well, that's who we have on tonight. It's Ray Edwards. You can't hire him, but he will show you how he makes his money. For example, he makes a few $1,000 every month just getting on a phone with a client and then writing their emails for them. He regularly earns $50,000 or more, not including residuals, just setting up a simple web page for people, some of them just one page. And the good news is, according to Ray, you can make the same kind of money. So we're going to talk about the systems he uses to create that kind of income, how you can duplicate those systems. Tonight's guest is Ray Edwards, copywriter and marketing consulting, and the author of the #1 best-selling book, Writing Riches. So great to have you here tonight, Ray. How are you doing?
Fabulous. Thank you, Ken. I'm going to do my best to live up to that introduction.
Well, it was written by a master copywriter, so you got a lot of work to do. I have a little bit of an echo in here. I'm not sure where that's coming from. Everybody's muted but us, but hopefully that won't be too distracting.
I don't hear it on my end.
Well, that's good. That's good. So maybe it's just me. So you've been a copywriter from the dark ages, I think. I mean, it just seems like I've known you forever, but yet I realize that I don't really know exactly how you started out, how you got into this from the very beginning. I think it was at a live event, wasn't it, that you went to that first got you really involved?
Yeah, well, sort of. What happened was I was in the radio business, and I realized that radio was in trouble because it was facing this nemesis called the internet. And I had been studying copy and writing copy for quite some time to figure out ways to be more effective for our radio clients and to promote our stations. And I just decided to make the transition to the internet. And I was in a Borders bookstore in Anchorage, Alaska in February.
Oh.
Can you imagine a more desolate place to be?
That sounds cold.
Yeah, I was working for a radio company. I was vice president of programming for a company. We had stations all over the Northwest, and Anchorage was one of my frequent visits. And I was really frustrated with what was happening with radio, and I wanted to make this transition to doing something online. And I was reading a book by Bob Bly. It was called How to Make, I think it was at that time, he's revised the number upwards now, but at that time it said How to Make $85,000 a year as a freelance writer. And that wasn't the same amount of money that I was making. I was actually making more money than that in the radio business, but it was so appealing to me. I read the whole book sitting there in the bookstore, and when I finished, I closed the book and I slammed it down on the table in front of me, and I said out loud, I can do that. And people around me looked at me like I was a crazy person. And I bought the book because I felt guilty about reading it without paying for it. But that's when I really just decided I was going to do it. So I wrote some copy for a guy named Mike Littman, who I'm sure you know.
Yeah.
And it was for an event that he was doing. I'm really just shortcutting this whole story. But I got so excited by writing the copy that I wanted to go to the event. And so I did, and I met a few people like a guy named Armand Morin, a guy named Stephen Pierce, and a guy named Ted Thomas. I'm sure all people that you're familiar with.
Yeah.
And I just started writing copy for those guys, and that's really how I got started. And it's weird because a lot of people, I sometimes get introduced, and people, talk about my decades and decades of experience as a direct response copywriter, and I'm like, well,
hasn't been that many decades.
I mean, I really just went full time in this in 2005.
Wow. Seems like time flies, doesn't it? So,
yeah.
So give me an idea. We're talking about copywriting, like everybody on the call knows exactly what that is. So what is copywriting, and tell me why it's important?
Yeah, a really good question, because a lot of people that I talk to think that I have something to do with protecting their intellectual property. And that's not it at all. Copywriting is the art of making a persuasive case to sell a product or an idea. And traditionally it has been thought of as meaning that you write space ads or newspaper ads or direct mail pieces. That's what we thought of as those guys as copywriters. It's easier now to explain what copywriting is because I just tell people, hey, you ever watch that show Mad Men? Well, those guys are copywriters, those guys that come up with those ad campaigns. And a lot of people can have a light bulb moment when I use that analogy. But really, copywriting is, there's a story about this famous guy named John Kennedy who had a meeting with an agency executive whose name was Albert Lasker. And Kennedy told Lasker, I can tell you what advertising really is, and I know that you don't really know what it is. And Lasker was kind of intrigued by this and said, okay, tell me. And John Kennedy said, it's salesmanship in print.
Yeah.
And I think that's a beautiful explanation of what copywriting is. It's really just salesmanship in print. And it's the reason it's so important is it's not just about writing those long scrolling web pages on the internet that sell get-rich-quick schemes. And it's not just about writing junk mail that tries to sell you pills and potions and lotions. It is really about persuasion as an art. And I believe that everything that you do is affected by your ability to, quote, write good copy. Because you're making a sale of some kind. Ken, you're married, right?
Yep.
Well, you made a sale one day.
Exactly.
You made more than one sale. You made a sale for the first date and a sale for the second date, and you were, quote,
and for the last 32 years, right?
Right. You got to keep the deal going. It's like a continuity plan. You got to get that retention program in place. But we all are selling or persuading all the time. We're doing it with our kids, with our family. If we go to church, there's persuasion that's happening there. I mean, when the preacher stands up on Sunday and tells you how you can live a deeper, more fulfilled life with real purpose, he is persuading you or selling you on those ideas. Making some of the most important sales that can be made in life. And so it's so important because it affects everything. And in a practical sense, it doesn't matter if you're an employee or you're an entrepreneur or you're a manager in somebody's company or you're starting your own business. I believe you need to know the art of copywriting. And I'll tell you just a brief little story. When I was in the radio business a few years before I decided to get out, I was trying to sell my company on the idea of the fact that we needed websites for all of our radio stations. Now, that sounds stupid today, but at that time, very few radio stations had websites, and the mentality in the radio business was, why would we want to spend money on one of those things? Who even knows what the web is? And so I was thinking about, well, how can I convince these guys to do this? And I had been a fan of these long-form sales letters for a long time. If you're familiar with a guy named Jay Abraham, I had read a lot of his long-form sales letters. And if you don't know what that is, anytime you get, if you've ever gotten something in the mail that was 4 or 5 pages long or more than that, trying to sell you on a subscription to a newsletter or a nutritional supplement or some kind of investment program, those are long-form sales letters. And we internet marketing folks just took the long-form direct mail sales letter and put it on the internet, and that's why we call them sales letters, even though they're technically web pages. But anyway, I had been a fan of those for a long time, and I decided that I would write a sales letter for the executives in my company, explaining and making a case and selling them on the idea of websites for our radio stations. And so I did. I wrote it. I didn't, nobody knew that it was called a sales letter. I called it a white paper. And I bicycled it around to the executives in my company and said, I've written this white paper about the internet and why we need to be on it. And it was about 24 pages long. And it was one of the catalysts in getting the internet division of this company started. And in fact, they ended up selling off the internet arm of the company for millions of dollars. Now, if I'd been a little more savvy, I would have had some kind of deal that would have gotten me part of that money. But it's just a case in point. I ended up getting several promotions, I'm convinced, as a direct result of having written that piece, because it really got me noticed. So it's not just about selling products. It really is applicable in all areas of life, I believe.
Yeah, absolutely. And you touched on something at the very beginning as you were talking about how you became a copywriter, and it was that magical point in which you said, I can do that. And I think a lot of copywriting, when you're talking about making the sale, that's a big part of writing a really, really strong sales letter, is getting that reader to the point where they say, I can do that.
Yeah, that's an excellent point, Ken, because a lot of books, especially business books, are so close to the exact way we would write sales copy that I have a hard time distinguishing one from the other. And Bob Bly's books are a case in point. Bob Bly he's known as America's copywriter. He wrote a book called The Copywriter's Bible, which is that for a lot of folks. And if you read a lot of his books, they read like sales letters in that they start by touching where the reader really is and talking to where the reader is in their life, what the realities are, and then showing them a vision of, well, here's what could be, and then illustrating what the gap between those two places are, and then systematically moving you through a series of arguments or persuasive statements, paragraphs, chapters, that lead you to the inevitable conclusion that the author wants you to have. And that's really how a sales letter works. And so in that case, as you just brilliantly pointed out, the sale that Bob was trying to make was that you could, in fact, become a freelance writer and make a good living at it. And I never really thought about it, but that's actually funny that the result was I slammed the book down on the table and said, I can do that. And that's exactly what he was trying to get me to do.
Exactly right. Exactly right. Well, he must have been pretty good at it. So you did come out of nowhere, a few years ago, and it seems like you were writing for all the superstars just out of nowhere. So, a lot of people would like to have that kind of experience in their life. So how did you do that?
Well, I actually did have a lot of things that have happened for me, Ken, have happened serendipitously or just, really through the grace of God, just taking care of me even though I was tripping over my own feet in many cases. This is one case where I actually had a conscious strategy that worked, and so I'm super excited to share it. And here's what it was. I had an epiphany, and I realized that and I urge you as you're listening to this to think about how you can apply this to your own situation. I realized that my perfect prospect was someone who had a business or was starting a business, who understood the value of copywriting already. I didn't have to explain to them what it was, and who was willing to invest in growing their business.
Yeah.
And it occurred to me that there's one place that is the perfect place to find those people. And that's at a seminar about growing your business. Because think about it. All the people at a business-type seminar, like JV Alert, for instance, are people who either have a business or want to have one, number one. Number two, they know about, most of them know about direct marketing and copywriting and internet marketing and all that kind of stuff. And number three, they're willing to pay money to grow their business, and the way we know that is they did it to get there. They had to buy a ticket. They had to buy an airline ticket.
Exactly.
So they've like pre-qualified themselves as perfect prospects. And so I decided that that was how I was going to grow my business. So I started going to as many conferences and seminars as I possibly could with the expressed intention of getting clients. And my scheme was that I would just offer free consultations, free critiques of their copy, and that's what I did. And it was pretty soon that I had to stop doing that because I had so much business, I didn't have time for new business. And because I wrote the copy for a couple of events early on, like Mike Littman's Success Mania events, and for Stu McLaren's Idea Incubator, were a couple of them right in the beginning. I had an opportunity to meet with the speakers that were, giving presentations there, and they found out what I did, and I wrote for one of them. And then here's the second part of the strategy. One of the first guys I wrote for was, other than Mike Littman, was Matt Basak, and then Stephen Pierce. I picked up those two clients at that first conference I went to. Well, when I talked to the next client, they would say inevitably, "Well, who have you done work for before?" Right. I had the opportunity to say, well, Mike Littman, Matt Basak, Stephen Pierce. Say no more. Here's what I want to talk to you about. And that list just began to grow. And then I had, because I did good work and I was, look, as a copywriter, I can tell you right now, here's what I want to talk to you about. And that list just, and then I had, because I did good work and I was, look, as a copywriter, I can tell you right now, one of the biggest assets you can have is to actually meet your deadlines.
Exactly.
Most copywriters don't, unfortunately, and copywriters have kind of a bad rap as wanting me. And what really exploded my career was two guys, Armand Morin and Alex Mondosian, began recommending me to people, to their friends, because they trusted me. Yeah. And that just really ignited my career. That's how I ended up writing for Jack Canfield and Mark Victor Hansen and Frank Kern, and then Frank recommended me to Tony Robbins' people, and that's really how that all unfolded.
Yeah, isn't it interesting? And I tell people that all, over and over again at JD Alert Live. It's not really hard to get noticed by the top level people because we all are looking for quality all the time. And if you can actually, make promises that you can keep, if you can deliver on those promises, if you just do what you say you're going to do, you're going to stand out from the vast, vast majority of people, because how many people, say that they're going to make you a millionaire or say that they're going to do this, that, or the other thing for you, and then never follow through, never get the job done.
Boy, that's so, so true. And, that really makes me conscious of the fact that there's one other thing that I need to mention that I did that I think was key in getting my career off the ground. Aside from doing what we just talked about, there's two ways to get people's attention. You can earn your way in. I don't know who said this originally, but it's true. You can earn your way in, or you can buy your way in. Yeah. And the way that I connected with Armand Morin and Alex Mondosian was actually, I had met both of them, but I really hadn't. Have you ever had that experience where you meet somebody and well, we didn't really make a connection. We met, but we're not going to keep in touch. You ever had that experience, Ken?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and so I knew that had happened with both of those guys. And so I was at a seminar, oddly enough, where they were together, were offering a coaching program where they were both coaches in the program.
So you got 2 for 1, didn't you?
Yeah, I did, and it was expensive. It was $5,000. Yeah. But I thought, if I buy that program and I excel as a student in the program, that will get their attention. They'll have to pay attention to me because I just gave them $5,000. Yeah, exactly. And so that's what I did. And what I learned through that experience was that works if you work it. So I used that same strategy to get to know Jeff Walker as another, for instance. And the key is, so you might say, well, lots of people bought their products or their coaching programs, but they didn't all become best buddies. So how did that happen? Well, it happened because the first thing you do when you do something like that is you study their material, you go through their course, you do their coaching, whatever, and you perform. Like you do the homework and you do the assignments. And I was pretty shocked because Armand and Alex did a thing where once a month they had a call-in day where you just called in during these certain hours, and if you were lucky, you would get through and you got to talk to them for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Well, I always called, and I always got through. You know why? I bet you do know why.
Yeah, because most people don't show up for those things, and
Right.
and the other thing is that we as people who are trying to teach other people, the biggest joy in our life is actually to see somebody execute on what we're trying to do. Because most people are trying to teach something or trying to do it because they want to make a difference, because they want to impact people. And when people go out and actually do what you ask them to do, if they make progress and if they really work at something, then it makes you feel good. It makes you feel like you're having an impact, like you're making a difference too. And we notice people that are like that.
Yep. That is so, so true. And then, the final thing is, if you can do something like that, get into somebody's program and then actually do the work and do the homework and be a good student and showing up for the calls, because I got to talk to those guys every month for a long time, and we got to know one another. And then, the final piece of the puzzle is I gave them a testimonial once I had some results. And I became one of their, example students. And you know this, Ken, when you have a Sterling Valentine that you mentor and he has a tremendous success, you're going to promote that guy because he's a student that did what you suggested, and he met with success, and you're proud of your student.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You've been, kind of on the inside from a lot of different perspectives, working with all of these big internet marketing businesses. So how do you think it's changed? What do you think the state of internet marketing is right now as compared to when you first started out?
Well, it's different by a long shot. And I think one of the differences is when I first came in, it was a lot more like the Wild Wild West.
Yeah.
There was a lot of cowboys and cowgirls, and they just came into town with their 6-shooters, and it's like everything you tried worked.
Yeah.
It was easy to build a big list. All you had to do was put a form on your website that said, join my newsletter, and people did.
Yeah.
And all you had to do was put up a long sales page. It didn't even have to be a good one, and you sold stuff.
Yeah.
And, I think one of the big things that happened was, there's two factors that I think came into play that changed the marketplace, and I'll explain what I think the change is in just a minute. But I think the two things that happened was, number one, there came a saturation point where, this is going to sound ugly the way I say this, but I don't mean it to be, but the market was on to all the tricks.
Yeah.
That's the first thing. They'd seen it all. And then the second thing.
It's a more sophisticated audience. So that, when markets mature, you have to, kind of step up the bar in order to be able to stand out.
Yeah, and then the proof of that is we started with just text sales letters, and when the response to those began to drop off, we started adding audio.
Yeah.
Remember the little audio generator buttons that everybody had on their sites?
Absolutely.
And then when that began to not get as much response, we moved to video, and we started with video, that was shot on a webcam and then on a flip cam, and now, people are doing videos that look like they were Hollywood productions.
Yeah.
Because of what you said, the audience has become more sophisticated in their expectations, and they see other stuff online that's like TV and like movies, and they expect marketing to be like that too, or at least be that interesting. But that's part one. Part two is, in 2008, there was this huge thing that happened called the bank collapse. And I think what occurred there is easy credit dried up.
Yeah.
And it was, pretty common that people would be selling $2,000 home study courses, and they'd sell 500 or 1,000 copies of that course during a product launch, and 100% or more, 100% of the purchases would be through credit cards.
Yeah.
And I think that, people maxed their cards out, and what happened to a lot of people was, you may have had a $30,000 limit on your credit card in July of 2008, and in October of 2008, your limit may have been reduced by the company to $10,000, and suddenly you're over your limit and you don't have any credit available. So now you can't go buy any more marketing courses or self-improvement courses or so forth. And so it became true that you have to be more sophisticated in your marketing, number one. Number two, I believe everybody was forced to evaluate, well, how much value am I bringing to people, and how can I bring more?
Yeah.
And number three, you had to really prove the worth of what you're doing in order to get people to part with their money, because now they're not parting with credit, they're parting with cash.
Right.
And that's a whole different buying experience.
So is it too late, Ray? Can an ordinary person still get started in this business? What do you think?
Yes, I think it is. An ordinary person can get started. It is not too late. It's just, it's, the people who are saying it's too late, that it's over, are people who just have not moved on. They're trying to live like it's 2006, and it's not. Right. And I think that, in fact, I think now is one of the best times for new people to get involved, because you know this, Ken, there are tools available to us that just blow my mind about how much stuff we can do that we used to was impossible 5 years ago. Oh, yeah.
Well, you talk about 5 years ago, and I'm talking about 15 years ago, when there were no affiliate programs whatsoever, when it cost, $30,000 I sold Portal Cube systems for, which did probably less than a WordPress blog could do today, in many ways, because there's so much you can do with the technology that's just plug and play and make it happen in seconds that you could never do before.
Yeah, I know. It's incredible. I was hanging out with Mike Stewart 2 or 3 weeks ago in Huntsville, Alabama, and you know Mike, the internet video guy, and he was telling me about these videos that he's making for people for their businesses to promote them online, and he's doing it on his iPad, and he's like, and you can do it on your iPhone too. And I said, you got to be kidding me. What are you talking about? Because I'm a big iPhone fan. I didn't even know what he was talking about. He goes, okay. So the first thing we do, and he grabs my iPhone. He's like, we download the $5 iMovie app, and we did. Yeah. He goes, now I'm going to shoot a quick video. I'm going to ask you a couple of questions, and he did. And he said, now watch this. And I watch him on my phone as he makes the titles, for the video. He makes it fade in and fade out. He puts music behind it. And he clicks the button, and he uploads it to YouTube, and it takes him about a total of 5 minutes to do that whole thing. And it's like, better than the local TV commercials that I see made. Wow. And he made it on my iPhone in about 5 minutes.
Yeah.
That's just mind-blowing. and the iMovie app, by the way, on your iPhone is $5.
Wow. Well, yeah, technology. I don't know how anybody keeps up with it, and I come from a technology background. So, why, if it's so easy now as compared to what it was, and I truly believe that it is, why do you think that so many people have trouble getting started or making any money? What's the problem here?
Well, this is actually one of my favorite things to talk about these days, because that used to drive me crazy. I would see people who were smart, who had great assets, who had great knowledge and skills and talent and intention and desire, and they just couldn't make it work. And I would get so frustrated about, why are you having this problem? Yeah. And yeah. I think I've actually figured it out. There's two levels on which we play this game of business. And actually there's two levels we play any game in life. And there's the inner game and there's the outer game. And the inner game, we're talking about what's inside your head and what's inside your heart that controls your behaviors. Yeah. Because, we've got emotional baggage or past experiences or just stuff that we were taught that as a child or as a young person that we don't even realize how deeply it affects us. But, think about all the things that you're taught that I could just trigger them just by saying to you, for instance, Ken, complete this phrase for me. Money doesn't grow
on trees.
Let's see. A penny saved
is a penny earned. Oh, that's terrible that I read it saves 9. So it's terrible how much of this stuff has been drilled into my brain, isn't it?
Well, but it's true for all of us. And so those are just, examples that work for most people. But the truth is there's other stuff that we get taught or gets ingrained in our brain that we don't even realize that it's controlling our behavior. Stuff like, for instance, being in business for yourself is risky.
Right.
You're a risk taker if you're in business for yourself. I think you're a risk taker if you're depending on a job for your security.
Oh, I agree.
And so I think what holds most people back, Ken, is that inner game stuff. And, it's also the stuff that makes us, when we know, okay, I'm going to work on my business, it's time for me to work on my business, and we sit down at our computer, and suddenly it becomes vitally important that we go see what people are talking about in a certain forum.
Yeah.
Or that we straighten out our desk drawer, or that we, watch cat videos on YouTube, or do anything except the thing that we know we should be working on. And we sit there for 3 hours, and we get up and we're tired, and we say, man, I'm really worn out, but we haven't really done anything. And that is inner game stuff right there.
You're exactly right.
What most people end up concentrating on is the outer game. And the outer game is, I want to learn the new system for selling online, or I want to learn how to build websites using WordPress, or whatever the stuff is we need to learn. And it's all good stuff, and it's all practical outer stuff, things that we do outside of our head that will make our business work. But people think that learning more outer game stuff is what's going to fix their problem, and really, that's not it at all. It's the inside job that you've got to do.
I couldn't agree more, and it's brought to me over and over again how simple it really is. When it comes down to the basics, I always say there's 3 things you need to make money online, and first is you got to have something to sell, and the second is you got to have an audience, and the third is you got to have conversion. And we know that if you don't have any one of the 3 things, that you won't make any money. But so many times people are caught up in that inner game. They're so busy trying to master things. They're so busy trying to discover the latest and greatest. They're so busy trying to figure out what the best of the best is that they never get to the basics of simply just create a quality product, solve real problems, give real value, and attract people that are having problems to that product or service, and then convince them using all the things that we know about conversion, to really, really make that that conversion process happen. So you're the copywriting expert. You're the conversion and persuasion expert. So can you share some of the secrets of copywriting in about 2 minutes or so?
Yes, I can. I can give you sort of a framework for constructing any persuasive argument or article or sales page or ad or just conversation. If you just want to be more persuasive in conversation, would that be useful?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay, so this is, you could think of this as an equation for persuasion. You got to have 4 things. You need to identify the problem, number 1.
Yep.
Number 2, make a promise. Number 3, provide proof. And number 4, make a proposition. So it's problem, promise, proof, proposition.
4 P's of copywriting.
And if you think of that as just an overarching framework, I mean, obviously there's more to it than that. But
yeah.
Literally, you could walk through that. Like if I were going to talk to somebody about coming to JV Alert, let me just work through an example to show you how this would work. I might say, okay, here's the problem that you have. You're trying to succeed in online business, and you're trying to do it all by yourself. You're sitting in front of a computer in your office or your basement or wherever you have your little setup, and you're learning lots of great stuff, but you've probably been doing that for a while, and nothing is happening, and it's probably pretty frustrating. Maybe you've spent lots of money on courses and online study things, and nothing's worked out, and maybe your spouse is not happy about it, and maybe your finances are not in great shape. And I would just be talking to someone maybe face-to-face, and I would be saying all this, and I would say, does any of that sound familiar? And And 9 times out of 10, they're nodding their head already before I ask that question. Yeah, that's exactly what's going on. And so you're on top of that. You have a job that you hate, and you want to get free from it, and you're in debt up to your eyeballs, and you want to get free from that, and that's a huge problem. And here's the promise that I have for you. It is completely possible for you to get out of that scenario and do it relatively quickly. Lots of other people have done it. The methods for doing it are not secret. You can find them out. They're not even necessarily expensive. There are expensive courses that you could buy, but you don't have to. It's information that is readily available to you, and other people have done it. And it means that just like other people, the promise is that you could create a business that gives you the freedom to do what you want, when you want, with whom you want. That it gives you the freedom to be out of debt, that gives you the freedom so that finances are no longer a limiter on what you want to do with your life. Is that something you'd be interested in?
No.
And the answer is yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, well, Ray, what's the proof? Well, the proof is, let me just tell you my story about what happened for me. Let me tell you about my friend Ken McArthur. Let me tell you about my friend Frank Sousa. Let me tell you about some of my clients like Frank Kern, and these are people that have lived out what I just told you. And let me tell you about, you may think those guys are famous guys. They're really famous to a very small group of people, but let's just say, okay, let's talk about ordinary people. I can point you to stories about one of my friends and clients who owns a dairy farm in Idaho and has been using these methods and has had great financial success doing that. I can point to a friend of mine who started as a client and a student of mine who is a veterinary doctor in Canada who was so fed up with running his practice that he wanted to start an online business and get free from the practice. And just in the last year, he's made so much money with his information marketing business that he sold his veterinary practice and is just full-time on the internet now, and he's loving it. So there's tons of examples of and proof of real people who've really done it. And so what I would propose to you, now see, here comes the proposition. What I would propose to you is, if you want to learn more about this, the thing you need to do is do what all these other people did. And none of them did it alone.
Yeah.
They did it with the cooperation and the support and the accountability of other people. And the way you get that is you do what I did. I remember I told you earlier in this call, I went to events, one after another, and the only thing that I would adjust about my strategy is I indiscriminately went to events. What I would adjust now, knowing what I know now, is I would go back and carefully pick the events that I attend. And at the top of the list would be JV Alert, because the intention of the event is for people to come together with a unity of purpose, which is to achieve a common goal and to do it in a spirit of cooperation so that everybody's focused on the same outcome for one another. And it's an event that's constructed so that you can come there as a total new person or as a veteran who's been, battle scarred and got the smell of smoke on you. You can show up there and you can get the help you need and the support you need. And I would urge people to come and realize that when you're in that room at JV Alert with those people that are there, however many people it is, let's say that it's 150 people, in that room truly are the keys to your future. And those keys are other people. So I would urge you to do what I'm going to do this next month in San Diego. I'm going to get there a day early. I'm going to stay a day after the event because I want the opportunity to meet people, to talk with people, to get to know them, to hear their feedback on my ideas, to maybe get my idea vetted by the hot seat, the panel of experts, to look over my idea and tell me, what am I missing, what do I need to do, and really, suck all the value out of that event that's there, and then to keep in contact. Because what I did, Ken, when I went to events was I actually formed a circle of people that have been friends of mine since the very first days that I went to those events.
Yeah.
And those are the people that I've been able to go to, when I'm doing well, and have them celebrate with me, and I've been able to go to them when I'm not doing so well and have them help me and point me in the right direction. And that's what I think is the key for anybody today. You say today it's different, and can a new person get started? Yes, this is the way that I would I would have them get started. So there's an example of how I would take the problem, the promise, the proof, and the proposition and construct an argument just off the cuff for why you need to go to JV Alert in San Diego, for instance.
Well, that is so true, and so many people who are just starting out are intimidated by the fact that there are so many top-level people at JV Alert Live, and I mean, there are scores of people that are top-level, not only in as speakers on our stage or as expert panelists with our super panel. Who have broad depth of knowledge in all kinds of subjects. It's kind of a situation where it doesn't really matter what problems you're having, whether they're related to building an audience, building a list, technical aspects of creating a website, if it's about the mindset, if it's about the tools or the latest and greatest things that you want to work with. All of those people are there and able to help the people get through those things. And even more impressive are some of the people in the audience because they're the people that are out there actually doing it, not just talking about it, not just teaching other people, but the people that are actually doing it. But so many times people are intimidated by the fact that we have all of these high-level people. And I always tell people who are just starting out, there is no better place for you to be than a JV Alert Live if you're just starting out, because if you had a guide, if you had somebody that had been through it before, if you had somebody that could really help you to avoid problems, how much is that worth to you? If somebody can protect you and nurture you along the way, then how much is that worth to you when you're just starting out and you don't know anything? And so many people think that they don't have anything to offer, but just like we talked about at the beginning, everybody has something of value to offer. I tell people if you can get a cup of coffee, you can do a joint venture. When Sterling Valentine first came to the first JV Alert Live, he didn't have any product, he didn't have any list, he didn't have any joint venture partners, he didn't have anything he could offer anybody's, seemingly when he came to the first JV Alert Live. So what did he do? He walked around and he talked to every single person there. He asked them what kinds of problems they were having. He asked them what kinds of things they wanted to achieve, and he focused on the people and what their desires and what their goals were. And by the end of that conference, he had people surrounding him, and he was able to help people too because he knew everybody at the conference, and he'd talked to them about their goals, and he knew how to match people up. And sure enough, a few months later at the next JV Alert Live, he was surrounded by a group of people that were able to help him launch his own product, that were able to give him some of the skills and to give him the joint venture partners to help him build a list of over 10,000 people and do over $100,000 in 92 days. So that's somebody who started out with no visible assets, lots of personality, lots of giving, lots of doing exactly what he said he was going to do and thinking of the other person first, but somebody that when he was starting out seemingly didn't have anything to offer.
Yeah, and that's such a great story, and I know it's absolutely 100% true because I remember when Sterling was hanging around with his beat-up laptop and his guitar, and that was pretty much all he had. And what's funny is I got you all excited. I went through those 4 Ps, and you got so excited that there you went. And that's what happens when you know how to be persuasive and when you know how to use copywriting. It's really, Zig Ziglar said, all selling is really the transference of enthusiasm from one person to another.
Yeah.
And I just, I'm so excited about just to kind of stay on this subject of JV Alert in San Diego since we're talking about it now. I'm so excited by the speaker panel that you have put together. You've had some great events, Ken, but this is the best panel of speakers I can remember in a long, long time. And it's rare, and I'm going to be a little bit self-revelatory here. Usually, as a speaker, when I go to a conference, there are 1 or 2 other speakers that I want to hear.
Yeah.
And And the rest of them I've heard so many times, or I'm just not interested in their topic, or whatever. I think that's true for most speakers. But this time, I find I want to be in every single session.
Yeah.
And that says a lot. And I would say this too: if you're considering coming to JV Alert, I can tell you what my approach is as a speaker coming to this event. I am there to pour out as much of myself as I can to help everybody that I come in contact with. I'm there to be available. I'm there to talk, to have coffee, to walk through your ideas with you, and to really connect you with the people that you most need to be connected with that'll help you. And I believe that every other speaker that's going to be at JV Alert is in that same mindset, because this seminar is different than other seminars. There are other seminars where you have a bunch of speakers, and I'm just going to say it like it is, at a lot of other seminars, all they're interested in is trying to sell you stuff.
Yeah.
And, once they're off the stage, they're gone. You don't see them anymore. You don't get to talk to them. And JV Alert is totally different. You will never have a better opportunity to meet with the speakers and talk with them and get to know them and let them get to know you, and to get your picture taken with them and all that stuff, plus all the other attendees. And I'm always amazed because, always in the back of the room at one of your events, Ken, there's a few people that nobody pays attention to and nobody talks to, and they're multi-millionaires.
Yeah.
They're running huge businesses, and nobody even realizes those people are in the room. So this is a huge opportunity. I'm really excited to be at this event, and I'm excited for everybody listening to be at the event too, because I think you have no idea what's in store for you.
Well, that's one of the reasons that we keep it, such an intimate event. We typically cap the attendance at 150 people, and that is, that magical kind of a number after which, an event changes. When you get 300 people in a room or 400 people in a room, I've been at events where Brendan Burchard has spoken, for instance, and there's 400 people in the room. I once listened to him at Book Expo, and there was a line probably of close to 100 people going up to him and trying to speak to Brendan and get just a couple of minutes. I didn't even do it because I didn't figure that I was going to spend 2 hours standing in line to say 5 minutes of hi. But at JB Alert, Brendan was there all weekend long. Like you said, the speakers who are at this event in San Diego, which is so special. Every single speaker on the stage at JV Alert Live has been the top speaker at a former JV Alert live event. Those are the high level that we've got this time. I don't know, all the circumstances came together. We have the perfect storm of having amazing people. And yet it's still an event where you can sit down, you can go to lunch with a speaker, or spend that quality time. So many times people like Ray have done copywriting consulting and talked to people, probably 30 minutes at a time on their specific problems, and that's not something that you can get at an event where there's 500 people at the event.
Yeah, that's right. And, I don't know if you know this or not. You probably are aware of this, but it's interesting that you chose the number 150 because that's Dunbar's number.
Yeah, exactly.
And for those who don't know, there's a British anthropologist named Robbin Dunbar, and the theory that Dunbar had was that there's a number of people, a maximum number, with whom you can have a stable social relationship, and that you can know who each person is and how they relate to every other person, and that number is 150. So no coincidence that you're capping it at 150, I guess.
No, exactly right. That is that magic number, and you can literally get to every single person that you would like to reach and have some kind of connection with that person during the 3-day weekend. And actually, we kind of extend that weekend because, like Ray said, Ray's coming in the day before. The day before, on Thursday night, we have a networking dinner, which is a great time to get to know everybody before the event even starts. We meet in the lobby at 6 o'clock and just go to the hotel restaurant, spend some quality time getting to know each other before the event. And then on Monday, before you head out, for the airport or something like that, we have a networking breakfast, so you can, touch base with all those people that you didn't get a chance to speak to, and wrap up any joint venture projects that maybe you've established during the weekend. So have you got just a couple more minutes for maybe a couple questions? We've had a couple of questions that have popped up.
Oh, sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, let's see what I've got here. And if you do have questions, go ahead and type them into the chat section. There's a question and answer section of your webcast tonight. And first thing up is, do you have the name of that iPhone video app that Mike Stewart was using by any chance?
Yes, it is iMovie. It's just the Apple app. It's iMovie.
Amazing.
It's $5.
$5, and it does all of that stuff, including titling and adding music to it and all those kinds of things.
Does it all? Yeah, and it will let you directly upload the movie to YouTube after you're done.
That's pretty incredible. The other thing is people can actually, you can raise your hand if you want to. I could unmute your phone if you have a question. For those of you who were asking, there were not any slides for tonight, or maybe there were 4 slides for the total thing. We just wanted to have a fireside chat, kind of those kinds of things, those kinds of questions that we were talking about. Just a chance to really sit here and pick the brilliant mind of Ray Edwards and all of his experience. I read your copy just, for the sheer art of it, Ray. I really do. I love Ray's copy. It is one of the true pleasures of life. If you want to get excited about your day, just go to a good Ray Edwards copy letter, and he will do it. Yeah.
Thank you, Ken. You honor me by saying that. I appreciate it.
It is definitely the truth. Let me see if there's anything else, any final questions. If you have questions about JV Alert Live, what it takes to be there, we're making it really, really easy this time with our early bird special. And, I know that the times are tough economically. I know that it costs money to get to a live event, and so we've done something I've never ever done before. We have traditionally charged upwards of as high as $1,297 for the regular price for JV Alert Live. The regular list price has been lowered to $697, but because of what is going on in the economy, because I know that people have a lot of challenges, and it's hard to get out to live events, and I truly do not want money to be the reason that you don't come to JV Alert Live. Then I'm doing an early bird special, and it's only $127, and even to make it better, we're actually throwing in not 1 but 2 free tickets so that you can bring, the person who's most significant in your life, your spouse or a friend, and then also somebody that maybe you would like to do joint ventures with, somebody that you'd like to learn with and get to know better. So many people, if you can come to JV Alert Live as a group with a group of people, we have a number of masterminds that are high-powered kinds of masterminds that are actually coming to the event as groups, because all of the members want to be there to learn from that tremendous speaker panel, and cement their relationships and cement their joint ventures and all of those kinds of things. So it really includes powerful networking, joint ventures, some marketing strategies that you will not hear anyplace else. I mean, so if you're interested in what's going on now, what the state of the industry is really like, you can certainly get that. I've got a question here, Ray, is there a place that we can go to study examples of Ray's copywriting work? And definitely we want to get that information in, Ray. So what are the best way for people to reach you, to find out about the kinds of things that you're doing now and how you're helping people, and also to find some examples of solid copywriting?
Well, the answer to both questions probably is the same, because so many of the projects that I do are fluid in nature that it's hard for me to give you a URL and be certain that the copy is still going to be there when you get there.
Yeah.
But if you'll go to rayedwards.com, which is just my main website, I post about a lot of my current projects there, and you can, there's tons of articles that I've written and resources that are free, and that's probably just the best answer to that question.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
I do have. You didn't know I was going to do this, so I'm going to take a risk here and kind of throw you for a loop, Ken. Is that okay?
Okay. I trust you, Ray.
Okay, good. I hope you still do by the time I'm finished. I'd like to really underline one thing, and then I want to give something free away if you're okay with that. The thing I want to underline is you were talking about how times economically for a lot of people are tough. A lot of people are cutting back. A lot of people are not going to seminars, not just in our industry, but in all industries.
Yeah.
The business is great for GoToMeeting. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
But I've been telling my students and my friends and colleagues now for quite some time, this is the time for us to get off our butts and start going to events again.
I agree.
Because it's an advantage, because everybody else is not going. That's the exact time to do the opposite of what everybody's doing. Everybody's staying home, so it's time for you and me to get up and let's go meet together and get things done while everybody else is sitting at home wringing their hands like Chicken Little. Let's don't be part of that crowd. So I just really think that one of the best things you can do is start going to events. And I mean, I believe this because I'm doing it. I went for a good 2 years and went to very few events, and it wasn't because I was cutting back economically, but I was seeing a less return from doing live events because fewer people were showing up, quite frankly, and I had other things I was concentrating on. But I saw a distinct competitive advantage arising from going to events, and I've really kicked it up quite a few notches, and I'm going somewhere a couple times a month now, and that's intentional on my part. Now, the thing that I want to do that maybe will help you make this decision, and Ken, you can tell me if this is not okay, but I have a course that I created with a friend of mine, and it's called Seminar Strategy Secrets, and I don't even offer it for sale anymore. But the whole idea behind it was, this was back in the heyday of seminars, when people were going to lots and lots of seminars, and my friend and I were talking about the fact that so many people went to these seminars and didn't make any money. They just spent money, and we always made money. And at that time, neither one of us was speaking at seminars, so it wasn't about being the speaker. But we made money by going and networking and doing joint ventures with people and so forth. And we were just talking over a couple of adult beverages one night, and we said, somebody should make a course about how to do that. And we sat there and looked at each other, and finally the light bulb went on, and we said, we should do that. So we created this course called Seminar Strategy Secrets, and it's in 3 parts. It's an audio course, and the 3 parts are what to do before the seminar. There's things that you should do to prepare before you go to any seminar that will help you get the most out of it. Yeah. The most in terms of what you learn, the most in terms of who you meet, the most in terms of how that meeting turns out, what you get from the meeting. And then there are things that you need to do while you're at the seminar or during the seminar, very specific things you need to do and things you need to not do while you're there. And then finally, there are things you need to do immediately after you attend the seminar. So we have these 3 modules that we created, what to do before, during, and after any seminar. And we have created kind of a checklist for all that stuff. And then we have, I think it's like 8 or 9 interviews with some really well-known people and a few not well-known people who are really good at attending seminars and getting the most out of them. And so we have all those interviews in there as well. And we sold this product for $297. And what I would like to do is just give it to anybody who is registered to come to JV Alert. And I'd like to give it to everybody who's already registered, if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
And to anybody who registers up until the event. And I'd like you to look at it as just like a handbook. Okay, I'm going to JV Alert in San Diego, and I'm determined to get the most out of this thing. So just look at this as your textbook for how to do that. And there's no strings attached. You don't have to buy anything or anything like that. We will have to get you registered for our membership area because it's protected by a password. But Ken, if you're okay with that, I'd like to offer that to everybody.
Absolutely. That's a great resource for people. And I really appreciate that, Ray. That's tremendous. All right. I do want to be respectful of people's time. There was one final question here, and maybe we can do this one final question. I've got a couple of opinions on this question, but let me see what you have to say, Ray. So when you launch your first product or course, is it important to just get it out there even if you feel it isn't perfect?
My short answer is yes. Yes. I would qualify that by saying if you feel like it's a piece of garbage, then don't get it out there.
Don't do it, yeah.
But if you're just worried about getting it perfect, let me tell you, I have never put out a product that I thought was totally perfect, that I was totally satisfied with. I put out lots of good stuff,
yeah, but
I always put it out feeling like, oh, I wish I could redo that one part. Or I wish I could add this.
Absolutely. I always said when I was working in the software arena that that launch is a feature. Actually getting things done is a necessary element to having any success. And of course, maybe you wouldn't use as a poster child for that example Bill Gates, but maybe you would, because there was never, ever, ever a Microsoft product that was perfect, and I think we can all unanimously agree on that. And yet, by getting things out there early and by letting people have access to technology so that they could figure out how things should be working, we have so many benefits today, and Bill Gates is a heck of a lot richer than he would have been if he had waited for everything to be perfect.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, I want to give a quick shout out to a couple of people who've been pinging me on Facebook during this webinar. Larry Steinhaus.
Oh yeah.
And Sherry Rose both have been posting about this webinar on Facebook, so I just thought to say hi to them. I'm looking forward to seeing them at JB Alert.
Yeah, and Larry Steinhaus is typing in here, what a recommendation for Ray Edwards and all you do, and certainly, I can't recommend anybody more highly if you want to connect with Ray. Ray is just quality all the way. You can reach him at rayedwards.com. And definitely consider coming to JB Alert Live in San Diego. It's September the 28th through the 30th. We would love to have you come to that. We're doing a whole series of these live conferences with speakers and panelists from JB Alert Live over the next few weeks. And so even if you can't make it, I encourage you to be watching for these. You can get on my mailing list at kenmacarthur.com if you would like to stay up to date and be notified of upcoming conferences. We're going to have some amazing people from the speakers. We have Mike Koenig's coming from Traffic Geyser and so many other projects. We have Dave Van Hoos, who is a killer closer. If you want to learn how to do platform sales, Dave is a monster at that. Adam Urbanski is going to be there. Of course, Ray Edwards. John DeLemme, amazing fellow. Debbie Bermont's going to be there, and Davin Michaels also. All outstanding people. And, of course, the list of other people goes on and on and on. Take a look at our panel. Just go to jbalertlive.com. Take a look at the people who are going to be there, who's going to be on the speaker panel. Watch the video to get an overview of what we're doing. And join us if you possibly can. If you can't come back to these web conferences, go visit Ray Edwards' site, and hopefully we'll meet you at a future JB Alert Live event. Thank you so much for being here tonight, Ray. You're a wonder, and I really, really appreciate you. You've had such a positive impact in my life. I value your friendship beyond what you can possibly imagine, and you make the world a better place.
Well, it goes both ways. Thank you. It's my privilege.
Thank you so much, everybody, and we hope to see you all in San Diego. Have a great night.